Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello students, today we are going to do chapter number 7 of history, that is changes in the arts, painting, literature and architecture. Here you could see the pictures of Indian architecture. These are the different monuments, buildings, temples which shows the Indian architecture. The Indian art intertwines with its cultural history, religions, and philosophies, which place art production and patronage in social and cultural contexts. Cultural awakening came into the realization of India's rich history and culture in the 19th and early 20th century. India witnessed a lot of changes in the fields of literature, paintings, architecture, and arts. Here you could see few of the pictures of Indian literature. Now, what literature means, Vita? The Indian literary tradition is primarily one of the poetry early works, and that were transmitted orally for many generations before they were written down. As a result, the earliest records of a text was available are delayed by several centuries than the actual date of its composition. Now, if we talk about our country, India is a country in South Asia and it is the seventh largest country by area, the second most populous country with over 1.2 billion people, and the most populous democracy in the world because it's militarily strong, has major cultural influence, and a fast growing and powerful economy. Now, let's talk about the cultural heritage, that is, a language. India is a cradle of 416 different languages. That means we have 416 different languages in our country, and official languages are Hindi and English. And two major language families are Indo-Aryan, those are North Indian, and Dravids, that is South India. This is Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the classical language and of Indian and liturgical language of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. It is also one of the 22 official languages of India, and the name Sanskrit means refined. Concreted the sanction, and it has always been regarded as a high language and used mainly for religious and scientific courses. Now, in poets and epics, Indian literature is generally acknowledged as one of the oldest in the world, and it is inspired by music, religion, and rich traditions. Famous poets like Rabindranath Tagore and Kalidas were born here. And great epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata also belong to land of India, and these epics serve as folk epics of Asian countries like Thailand, Malaysia and Indonesia too. Hopefully you must have heard about these epics. Now the visual arts. If we talk about sculpture and architecture, India is famous for stone and bronze carvings, temple carvings, pink sandstone, culture of Mathura, Fatehpur Sikri, Taj Mahal, Qutub Minar, Red Fort, Victoria Memorial, Lotus Temple, the white marble Taj Mahal is amongst the seven wonders of the world. Now let's start with the poets and the writers. In the 19th century, poets such as Ghalib lived and worked during the British era, when literary revolution occurred in all the Indian languages as a result of contact with Western thought and when the printing press was introduced by Christian missionaries. That means the poets and the writers who were present in India, they were writing all the things with contact of Western thoughts also. And above all, now the things were not only handwritten but they were printed too because Christian missionaries, they introduced the printing press. And the influence of Western educational institutions was very strong. Now, Ghalib was the last great poet of the Mughals period. He wrote many ghazals and he is considered to be one of the most popular and influential poet of Urdu language. It is said that Ghalib had a weakness for drinking and gambling, and these two vices were something that he was truly fond in his lifetime. It is also said that Ghalib had 7 children, but sadly none of them survived. This pain has found its way into his poetry. Now, during the mid-19th century, in the great ports of Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai, a prose literary tradition arose and encompassing the novel, short story, essay and literary drama that gradually engulfed the customary Indian verse genres. Urdu poets remained faithful to the old forms while Bengalis were imitating such English poets as Percy Bysshe Shelley as T.S. Eliot. And this is also very true that West Bengalis were starting their poetry in the form of English poets and they were exploring day by day. Now let's talk about Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Swami Vivekanand. Raja Ram Mohan Roy's campaign for introduction of scientific education in India and Swami Vivekanand's work are considered to be great examples of English literature in India. Both were very renowned personalities of the country. They were social workers also and they were great reformers. And Rabindranath Tagore, a very well-known personality of poetry and the Indian literature. He was the first Indian to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. Jan Gan Man, a song composed by him, is now the national anthem of India. And much of his prose and verses available in his own English translations, work by two other great 20th century Indian leaders and writers, is also widely known. And the verse of the Islamic leader and philosopher Muhammad Iqbal, originally written in Urdu and Persians, and the autobiography of Mohandas K. Karamchand Gandhi, My Experiments with Truth, originally written in Gujarati between 1927 and 29, is now considered as a classic writing. Now let's talk about something Indian paintings. You could see there are so many paintings, beautiful paintings of Indian painters. Now let's see what was the development in art since colonization till time. The major themes of Indian art seem to begin and emerging as early as the Harappan period, about 2500 BC. Small Persian style miniature paintings also became popular. Let us discuss them in detail about what changes came in Indian art. First of all, let's see Raja Ram Ravi Verma. Raja Ram Ravi Verma was the pioneer of modern Indian art. In the 19th century, Raja Ravi Verma painted scenes from Hindu mythology and popularized them. He introduced large bright areas of color in his portrait and landscapes. His paintings are considered to be among the best examples of the fusion of Indian traditions with the techniques of European academic art. Here you could see the Bengal art. These are the artists, those who made the pictures related to the agriculture and the rural areas. Now, the Bengal school of art was an important style of art that blossomed in India during the British art in the early 20th century. It was associated with the Indian nationalism but was also promoted and supported by many British and administrators. And this is a picture drawn as Bharat Mata. Nandlal Bose. He belonged to a tradition of painters who were known for their patriotic beliefs. His works were conscious of the burden of building and shaping the mind of a nation. Jamini Roy is seen as one of the most important painters of modern Bengal. The unmistakable influence of folk tradition is to be found in his work throughout his career. His awe-inspiring body of work had made him one of the most influential modern Indian painters. Amrita Shergill and George Gill, very popular personalities. Now, the Amrita Shergill was the first artist to openly condemn the Bengal school and address of need of incorporating international aesthetics within the Indian sensibility in an attempt to nudge Indian art forward. Here you could see her picture as well. This is one of the paintings painted by Amrita Shergill, very beautifully painted. George Gill. He assimilated the various influence of tradition, Indian art and mythology, Cubism and Sinhalese art and created dramatic imagery wherein his figures take an expressive grandeur and intense feeling. Sinhalese are is a community of Sri Lanka. This is one of the beautifully painted painting by George. Now, Baroda University of Art. Baroda University, with its fine arts faculty, was instituted in Baroda in 1950s as a modern education facility, which incorporated in the syllabus along the painting and sculpture, aesthetics, philosophy, graphic arts, musicology, art, history, criticism, creating a holistic educational system. The pioneers Hansa Mehta, Makhan Bhatt, N.S. Bendre, Sanko Chaudhary, and K.G. Subramaniam shaped the art of the next couple of decades and still influence arts and artists today. This is Madras School of Arts, and you could see this is a very old picture of the school. It was started in the South Indian port city of Madras. The college itself is 147 years old institution. The museum collection is housed inside an originally Victorian building designed by British architects in 1850s. The Madras School of Art was founded by Dr. Alexander Hunter in the year 1850 with a focus to promote creative gold and silver craftsmanship.